Hello, you're watching Ellie from Ellymentry Papercrafting. I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator here in the UK. I wanted to try something a bit different today. I wanted to use the Piece to Use stamp set, which is from our mini catalogue. And I decided to case the catalogue, which isn't something I do very often. Now, in case you're not familiar with it, CASE stands for Copy and Share Everything. So I thought I would take the lovely DSP, which is called Metallic Shimmer. It's 6x6 and it comes in 3 colourways. So we've got the silver, white and black there. There's the silver and gold. Sorry, the gold and I think that's like a dark, that's Evening Evergreen. And then we've got the that one, which is Cajun Craze and Pumpkin Pie. Okay, now they've used the gold one in here, but I wanted to go for the silver. So I've chosen the black and white and silver, this one. So, and I might change up the colour of the sequins. I'm not quite sure yet. But the sequins are from our annual catalogue. I'll just show you. And they're called For Everything Fancy Sequins. And these are great value because you get 3 pots. And there are absolutely hundreds in there. So you've got blues, greens and pinks. So really, really good set there. So that's the items I'm using today. Now, this one uses a die that I don't have. I didn't buy this set of dies, but I do have the fabulous frames dies, which I've shown you before. And I'm going to use the oval one, which is this one here. So I've just gone ahead and done a little bit of prep beforehand. So I've taken my piece of DSP and I've cut it to the same size as an A6 card base. And that is 4 1/8 inches by 5 3/4 inches. Okay, and if you want that in centimeters, I will take my ruler, which you can do, just get your ruler and look on the other side. That's 14.5 by 10.10. Okay, sorry, 10.5. Sorry, I'm not a centimeters person. Okay, so that's the size of an A6 card blank. I put some of our double-sided adhesive sheet on the back and I've stuck it to a piece of our basic white cardstock. So this is rigid like the card base. All right, so it's the same size. So this is the piece I'm going to cut my aperture from to make the shaker card. Now, the good thing about this die is that it's got 2 holes, top and bottom, so you can see the center, and that really helps. So if I take my ruler, place my cardstock along the bottom here, I want this to be the center. So I know that this is 4 1/8. So if I bring it to 2 1/16 either side of that A, I know that's the center. And if I put the ruler level with that line, put my die on top and put those holes level with the ruler, I know it's in the middle. Now I want it to be slightly higher. I want this to be dead central, obviously, but I want a smaller space here. So once I've done that, I'm going to use my piece of Post-it note and make sure that that is stuck in place. And then I'm going to run this through my die cut machine to cut out my aperture. So that's cut out nicely, and there we go. And it also cuts another piece in the middle and that frame, so you can keep these for another project. And I always like to keep it in the die bit, in the little case you get the dies in. So that's my aperture. So I'm going to stamp this on a piece of cardstock. So this is the church and the lovely sort of fir trees. I'll stamp that on a piece of cardstock, and then I'll put the cardstock behind here. Okay, so I'm going to, I've got a piece of basic white here, the same size as my card, or almost the same size. And I'm just going to give myself a little guide by taking a pencil, and I'm just going to mark the top of the aperture, bottom, and the two sides. Okay, so I roughly know where I want my image to be. Now I want the church to be just to one side because I want to get the tree in. So looking at that, I need to get that, yeah, I want to line that edge up there with the edge of my card. That should be okay. Now, because I'm going to emboss this with some white embossing powder, the first thing I need to do is use my embossing buddy. And these are available again in the Stampin' Up catalogue. So I'm just going to pop that on. Now, I could stamp this onto the card base straight away, but if I get it wrong, then I haven't got any room to manoeuvre. But if I do it on a spare piece of card, if it's slightly out, I can move it over a little bit. And then I'm going to use some Versamark ink to stamp this out. And make sure you ink it up really well. That's it. And so I'm going to come down a little bit, and I said to make it flat there. Now this is quite a large stamp, so to make sure I do get it inked all over equally, I'm using my homemade, I think they call this a chucky, I don't know why, but it's a heavy weight which I made from the top of a candle, you know, the candle you can buy. And I put some stones in there, some wax, and then built it up with some marbles, put some soft stuff inside and covered it with that. And this is brilliant. This really helps. This is really good with the stamping platforms. Okay, so I think that should be well inked up. So if I hold that under the light, I can see that that's really inked up well. So I'm going to bring in a piece of my old grid paper that is well used, and I fold it down the middle, and then I'm going to cover this in my white embossing powder. Now I like to use a spoon so that I can spoon the powder on and let it fall almost straight back into the pot. So there will be some on my paper, but it won't be as much as if I just let it all fall onto the piece of paper. I'm trying to contain as much as I can. And then you need to tap your cardstock. I usually find tapping it from the side is sufficient. And when you turn it sideways on, you can see exactly the area that's been covered. And if you can see any that's missing, you can then put some more on. So I'm just going to pop that to one side a minute while I just move this little bit of powder that's missed the pot, and it wasn't very much. And then I can just shoot that back into there, and it's much easier if you've already creased the paper, because it all naturally goes to the center. Okay, so the thing I'm going to do now is heat up my heat gun to make it nice and hot to melt our powder. So the heat gun's warmed up now, and it's always a good idea to heat from the back to start with. If you heat from both sides, you'll help to stop it warping too much. And then as you hold the heat gun over the embossing powder, you will see it melting and it goes shiny. And as soon as it's gone shiny, stop. Don't keep going over and over it, because that won't help. As soon as it's gone, it's gone. Now, you do need to make sure that this is really dry before you actually do anything else. So I'm just going to put that to one side, and I'm going to use some foam tape to put on the back of here. Now, I've got the lovely thin strips of foam tape from Stampin' Up, and that's called, here we are, it's just foam adhesive strips, but these are really good because they're very narrow and they will bend around the outside bit, which is where I specifically want them. But because it would take quite a lot of this to go along the outside, because you need a good thick border of it, I'm going to use some old tape I picked up from somewhere else. I've had this for years, but in this instance it's pretty good because it's thick, and I can use it just to go around the outside, so it doesn't take so much to cover it. And then before I actually put the tape on here, I'm going to cut my piece of window sheet or acetate, whatever you like, to stick over my aperture. And then I'm going to stick this down, which will help to stick the actual window sheet down. So I'm just going to cut this with scissors. So it's got to be obviously wider than the aperture itself, and it needs to be taller. It's not critical, the actual measurement, as long as it does completely cover that area. Now, this has got a little bit of something on it. If I just polish it up, that will be fine. So if I hold that over there now, it's lovely. You can't see anything on that. So I'm going to use some tear and tape, or double-sided tape, whatever you like to call this. I'm just going to pop some of that on one side. It's a little bit proud, but if I just pop a bit there, and along here, and along there, that will help to secure that in. If I just pop that on the card and then use my other tape to secure this edge, that will be fine. Like so, and then that will keep this up off the card, and then this will actually bend quite nicely. If you take one side of the adhesive off, like, it will bend round there really nicely. You keep that nice and close to the aperture without going over. And you want to make sure that that is really sealed there. You don't want any gaps. Okay, so you can't see it from the front, and you make sure that there's no gap here at all, so that the beads and things can't get out. Now, because this one is thicker, I'm going to put another layer of this tape all the way round. So this is all now the same height. So when we pop that on our card, we'll get that good height so that the beads will shake inside and they won't get stuck and they won't fall out. So I can come back in with the piece that we emboss with the white embossing powder. I'm using a blending brush and our crumb cake ink pad. I'm going to get plenty of ink on my brush, just dab off the excess there, and then I'm just going to, in a circular movement, go over the church. So what we're doing is we're just colouring the church and the tree. So if I bring in my piece with the aperture and place it over the card, that's really lovely. So I'm just going to colour up a bit more of this tree as well. So if I just stamp the image in a coloured ink, which you can do, no problem, I would have had the coloured background and the church and the trees would have been white, which is totally acceptable. But I wanted the different image. I wanted the white background. So with this clean tissue, I'm just wiping off the ink. And this is what's called Stampin' Resist. So you use an embossing powder on the back and that resists the ink. And then that fits behind there. Really lovely. Now, if I tried to stamp that image in the right place on the cardstock, it probably wouldn't have been right. So you see, if I wanted to, I could move this more that way if I want to get the church on the side and get more of the tall tree in, and then I could cut this down. But I am going to leave it as it is. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and take the sticky off the back of here. And then I'm going to go in with my effervescent elements. These are gorgeous. These are just clear, but they take on the colour of whatever's around them. So we'll put a few of those in. So I'm just popping those around the side there. Pop the lid on, and I think I will use the blue actually, because there's think that'll be nice. So just drop those in. So let's pop that on and line it up with my paper like so, and make sure that it's all stuck really well. If I get my bone folder, and put the lid on there. They're so sparkly, they're so lovely. And then if we turn it over, there's our little shaker card. So I think anybody would be really pleased to get that. It doesn't matter if 1 or 2 stick on the inside. It looks quite nice actually. So that's really nice. It's really fun. Children love these. And then you can just trim off that top bit, which I know was bigger to start with. And everything's secured inside there. And then just to pop that onto the cardstock, like so, onto my card base. I'm going to use some Tombow multi-purpose glue. And it's a good idea to pop it this way. Okay. And then for the inside, I can take the stamp. I've taken the Versamark ink off, and then I can just use the crumb cake, and I'm just going to do a little bit on the side here and just get the fir trees on without the church, just to give it that little something. So they will be in white, the background will be in the crumb cake. So it will be the reverse image. Okay, so it's in the brown there and it's in the white there. And to finish off the front, I'm just going to add a greeting. Oh, do you know what I've done? I've stuck this upside down. I meant this to be the other way around. Oh well, never mind, I'm going to have to put it up here. So I think we're going to have peace to you at Christmas time. Actually, I think that complements it because you've got a lot going on there and then you've got all your baubles at the bottom. So actually, I don't mind that. So I'm going to do it in the crumb cake again so that it matches with our church and trees. So I'm just going to cut this out freehand. And we'll just pop that on a couple of foam pads. And that can just go there. So that's this week's card. And I'll just take you back to the brochure so you can see that it's not the same. I've used different paper, different coloured paper. I've stamped in a different colour. I've used the effervescent elements as well. So it's similar, but it's not the same. And that's One of the things that happens when you say you're going to case something, very often it doesn't turn out the same. It turns out different. Well, I'd really appreciate it if you clicked the like button to support my channel. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and share. That would be lovely if you shared it with friends. In the description box below, I will link to the downloadable digital catalogues from which you can shop at the moment. And if you do wish to buy anything I've shown you tonight, or indeed anything in the current catalogues, then there will be a link to my online store as well. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you again very soon. Bye-bye.